Hello everybody and welcome to this, and if the camera would stop shaking, that would be great. Welcome back to an edition of, I don't really know what this is yet, but I guess you could say this is in the spirit of gaming news. There was a certain thing that was a little interesting today. I know there's a lot of people trying, basically scraping the bottom of the barrel when it comes to gaming news and shit going on, because there's nothing really happening except games being delayed when they shouldn't be delayed because they could just be digitally released. But that's another story for another day. Actually, I already talked about that. But yeah, no, Last of Us Part 2, bringing it out digitally. Animal Crossing's doing great, and Doom Eternal, they're selling gangbusters. Just try it, movies do it, they come out digitally first, and then they fucking come out subsequently physical. So anyway, there's a certain developer looking to continue on making Nintendo Switch ports into next gen, so stretching the hardware even more, porting not just last gen games and current gen like The Witcher 3 and all that, but looking at porting next generation titles that we'll see on the PlayStation 5, like potentially Cyberpunk. I don't think it's suddenly ambitious to toss around the idea of Cyberpunk, certainly when you can port over Witcher 3 and you're talking about being optimistic and porting next gen games. Because I know a lot of current gen games that have been ported over are typically in 720p. So I'm guessing next gen on the Switch are going to be 480p, 480i. So this is where the confusing part comes into play, because it's like, I think anybody that has a Nintendo Switch, I think the vast minority of people that have one, only have the Switch. I don't know of many people, maybe there are more people out there that only have Switches. I don't really know for sure, but I'm trying to get a sense of Nintendo's mentality here, or initially anyway. I don't really know if they wanted it to be, just an absolute machine when it comes to, or when it came to, just doing first party content, or, obviously, but then they made the dev kits cheap and it was kind of open source and easy to develop for. So they were encouraging third party support, but then not implementing the right, I know it's like a NVIDIA chip. I'm not Digital Foundry, but I know they made it essentially easy to develop for the Switch for third party, but they didn't beef up the hardware quite enough. But yes, I know that would impact the bottom line and obviously the cost of the console, but even if they were to factor that in and cut the price, I mean, like, you can't really worry about a nickel here and there when you're talking about the longevity of your console. So initially, I don't know if they were just like, no, this is gonna be first party, but they developed it to be easy to develop for third party. So I don't know, but stretching the hardware into next gen should be really interesting. This developer, Virtuos, I think they're called. They've developed LA Noire, which had frame rate issues. Dark Souls, I think, also had issues. I assume they have been fixed and updated and patched and all that. But it's definitely an interesting proposition, and it's very optimistic. I think you need to stretch, to really be straining the system at that point. And I don't really understand the, I guess I'm just trying to figure out, like, if you're the type of person to buy the Switch, you most likely have a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox. Well, I don't have an Xbox anymore, but I have a PlayStation 4, I have a PC, a half decent one, and and a Nintendo Switch with a PlayStation 4. And I thought, well, if the occasional port, that would be fun to play on the Switch in bed, because the thing that I have my phone mounted on right now, the gooseneck, or the Tri-One gooseneck from Amazon, I fucking throw it on my headboard, crank it over my head. I take off the controllers, because I saw like somebody in a meme doing it, and they just had the left and right Joy-Con, and they're just lying down, which is like so ergonomical, because I have like a fucked up arm, so it's perfect for me. Cubital tunnel, it's great. But the occasional port that I could just lay down in bed and play, because I don't have my TV in my bedroom because I'm not 13 years old anymore, but that's an whole other thing. So I'm trying to find out, I'm just trying to understand Nintendo's, I just don't think they've beefed it up quite enough, because we're getting the Outer Worlds, like this particular developer, they're porting over the Outer Worlds in June, and I'm a little worried because that game, while it runs good because it was made in the Unreal Engine, which is a very stable engine, obviously. Again, I'm not Digital Foundry, but I know it's stable as fuck. It's, that's what Mass Effect Andromeda should have used instead of the Frostbite, but I don't want to go back to that. But Outer Worlds was already kind of stuttery, and I'm just a little worried because it's a really ambitious game for them. If it was Panic Button, not that Panic Button has handled an open world game. I don't know, but like Saints Row, the third, and I guess like the fourth one, which I can't stand anyway. I guess they both, the third had frame rate issues, and I think this one has performance issues as well. I'm just trying to figure out like if they and the new Switch doesn't come out till 2023 anyway. So you're gonna have next gen releases at the end of this year if it's still on track with the whole COVID fucking thing. 2021, 2022, there's gonna be a whole backlog of games to kind of port over, or if they can't properly, I guess, port the games over that are next gen onto the Switch is gonna be there's gonna be a huge disparity of all the third party ports that we're getting, because I think current gen is just pushing the Switch to its absolute peak. Like with The Witcher 3, I think that's the epitome of what it can do. If they're saying if they can stretch next generation hardware, I think they would have to run the games in 480p. But this was just an article I read. They're optimistic that they can keep doing ports, because I think the Switch is going to have they're not going to have any third party content. You're just going to have a lot of current gen, or I guess in this case current gen ports, next gen on the Switch. So the Switch is always going to be kind of fairly behind when it comes to third party ports. So it's kind of a weird device to have when you think about it, because you want the portability, but then again, they're kind of games you've already played before. But I think it's a great way to play games from last gen. But where's my Arkham trilogy for the Switch? And where's Mass Effect? Like, where the fuck is Mass Effect remastered? That's all I'm asking. I know Andromeda took the steam out of it a little bit, because that game shit the bed. I think we can all agree. But I want my, 1, 2, at least have 2 and 3 remastered, like a collection on the Switch. That'd be fucking great. I'd be playing that till, Borderlands 2 and Bioshock. Bioshock is a great fit. Borderlands, there's a lot of content. I know with the little mini direct they had. But I'm just trying to get a sense of where the Switch is going to be in a few years if it can't actually port over these next gen games, or they're going to have to significantly cut content out of them. Like I know a good example of that was if you played Splinter Cell 3 Chaos Theory on a bit of a lisp there. Chaos Theory, oh fuck, I can't speak. Chaos Theory on the original Xbox, you had the PC version of the game, so like the level design wasn't cut back like it was on the GameCube or the PlayStation 2. You're gonna have to cut chunks out of it, and at that point, why even play that version of the game, or an inferior version of the game? I know this was kind of a ramble, but it's kind of a confusing. I think Nintendo, if they wanted to, I think they're just kind of making this up as they go along. I think maybe initially they wanted just to be first party, because they've been knocking it out of the park. I mean, the first year they had Odyssey and Zelda, but and then followed by obviously Astral Chain and Animal Crossing and a whole fuckload of others. But it should be interesting, because if they can't port these over, they're going to have essentially no third party. But take it with a grain of salt. But anyway, that was just a ramble, and stay safe, stay isolated, and I don't know, take care.